The newest entry in FromSoft's catalogue is released, and it's a definite departure from the style of game we're used to. Regardless, it still brings to the table a fresh roster of bosses, so today I'll be ranking all the new major bosses, the nightlords, from worst to best. So to kick us off, we got Gladius Beast of Night. Now, initially when I played the demo, I wasn't too hot on Gladius, and some of those issues still preside. I still think he moves around a little too much. I've never been too keen on the big beast, erratic kind of FromSoft bosses. I'm much more keen on your Lady Marias, your Artoriuses, your kind of really technical, really precise knight style fights. So these big beast fights don't always work for me, but I've actually come around to Gladius. I've fought him a fair few times. I think that's mostly just because of teammates, because you are at this point with people who haven't beaten the first boss yet for the most part. So they're not going to be very good. You're just getting the hang of the game and everything. In terms of the quality, I kind of get what they were trying to do with splitting him into three and having to balance all the aggro, and it does kind of work to an extent. The issue is the enemy aggro in this game is just a bit janky. It's a bit weird. They'll flip between people at really strange timings. It seems random entirely, and they'll attack people who are on the other side of the map even though they've actively got someone in front of them, whacking them with a big greatsword. So it doesn't really work. I think if they kind of sorted that aggro about, it would work a bit better, and I think that's a general issue with the bosses. They just switch aggro too quickly. I said the same about Elden Ring itself, to be honest. But yeah, the aggro in this game is a bit weird. In terms of its moveset, it doesn't really have much diversity. It's pretty simple. Like, you compare it to the extensiveness of Margit's moveset, it's only really got about 5 moves. They're all fairly intuitive to dodge. The one I do have a slight issue with is the fire breath. Not the one where it digs its sword in the ground, the actual flame spitting itself comes out at really weird timings, and it can really catch you off guard. Once you get the timing down to dodge it, it's not too bad. I do think this boss is decent. I think it's decent. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's great. It's a good end to the run, and it does actually make what you do in the runs matter, which I think all these bosses do a good job of. I do like Gladius reasonably, but he is ultimately an erratic big beast style boss that I just don't think can be any higher than decent, and the arena just makes them really hard to track down, which is an issue with all these bosses. They can just run away like nobody's business, and you can get into real pickles trying to actually get to the bosses. So we'll move on to the next boss most people will probably fight and beat. Is it Adel, Baron of Night? That's his name. I don't really like him, to be honest. He's the same in his erratic movements, but the issue is he's so big, and he's that kind of ankle chipping enemy like your ancient dragons or anything, where you're going to be chipping their ankles, which makes it pretty difficult to actually see what he's doing, because most of his tells, they did do a good job putting tells in the actual legs themselves, but still most of them are in the face, so when you can't actually see that for a lot of the fight, it can make him quite difficult to see. But that's not a massive issue. You can tell what's going on. The biggest thing is just how erratically he moves. He moves with such janky patterns that he can be really hard to track. And then there's the AoE, which I'm glad the AoEs in this game, I'll give them credit, they're actually fine. Apart from 1, 2, the AoEs are pretty well made, and they do give you a reasonable amount of time to dodge, and they give them good tells. So his AoE is actually perfectly fine, but his like lunging slams and stuff, especially the ones where he like slams his chin on the ground and creates like a little shockwave, they can just be really annoying to dodge because they're so erratic. And then it'll, especially in phase 2, it's a real issue. He just starts running around the arena and makes it really difficult for you to actually hit him, which again I just mentioned is an issue with a lot of these bosses. They can be really difficult to actually track down and deal damage to, unless you're playing the Iron Eye, which I love the Iron Eye, great class, but I play Duchess personally. Yeah, can be very difficult to track down, and you're wasting stamina running up to them to the point where you maybe get 1 or 2 attacks off by the time you reach them, and then they're gone again while your stamina's regenning. So yeah, I just don't think Adel's very good. He's not trash. He's not quite in that bottom tier of FromSoft bosses. He's no Thief. He's no Abductor Virgin duo. He's not that bad, but he's not good. Like, he's far from it. He's just erratic, and his moves don't feel particularly fun to dodge. It just feels like a frenzy. Like, I don't like that. I like seeing moves coming at me, knowing, okay, there's that tell. That means I need to have this response. That's kind of what I like. I don't like just having this frenzy where you kind of react to the tells, but it's just a bit of a scramble. I'm not a massive fan of it. And then we've got Gnoster, who honestly, when I was fighting him before I beat him, I was hating him. so much. I had him as like trash tier below Adel, really bad, but I beat him. I ended up having a run where I did half the health bar myself because my team kept dying. Like, they had 3 death bars by about a third of his health down, so I essentially soloed half this boss, and it was not fun. It was very stressful, but I did manage to pull it off, just about. And yeah, it was pretty good. I didn't like it. I still don't think this boss is great. I've got a couple of issues, really. A couple of them are minor. The biggest one is the AoE. It's just really annoying. If you're in the middle of an attack string, especially say you're playing like the Raider or something and you go for the charged R2, maybe not a good idea on this guy, I don't know. But that AoE can just come out really quickly and it does so much damage if you're close to him. It's not too hard to get away from, but it just comes out of nowhere. And if you're in the middle of attacking, you're gonna get caught and take some damage from it. So most of the damage I was taking on the runs I've done of this guy is just from the AoE, rather than anything else. And then there's also the magical pillar AoE kind of things, the stakes of light that the bug puts in the ground. They're a bit annoying just because they restrict movement. Like, the boss has a tendency to sit in them, but the biggest issue with those is that they don't ignore down teammates from what I've seen. So if your teammate's downed, the boss will still spawn those pillars on the teammate. It's just like their regular aggro, but if they decide they're going to put that pillar on the down teammate, they'll do it rather than go, okay, he's downed, we'll ignore that like all the other attacks do. So they'll put a stake on the teammate and stop you from reviving for about 10 seconds, which can be really annoying. And they'll put one on the Scorpion and stop you from attacking it, so that's quite frustrating when they're blocking you from actually fighting the boss. And then there's also the poison mist, which is a little bit annoying, and it's kind of the issue I had with it was it's kind of sometimes unclear where the actual damaging radius of it is. I don't know if anyone else had that issue. The visual hitbox is very strange as to where you're actually getting poisoned, and it can be quite hard to tell where that's kind of taking effect, but it's not too bad. It's reasonably easy to avoid. In this boss's favour, I do really like the melee like stomps the bug has, where it's kind of stamping the ground to either side of it and creating shockwaves. I think those are really cool. I think those are great attacks. The one where the bug shoots stars up into the sky and spears come raining down, the like kind of almost Aldrich-esque move, I think that's really cool. It's really interesting. There's lots of ways you can deal with it. You can dodge the arrows, not hard to do. You can run away, again, not hard to do. Or you can actually hide under the Scorpion, which I really like to do because then you can get some guaranteed damage. But a better option is probably just to dodge them towards the butterfly and get some damage because she takes more damage than the Scorpion. So yeah, that's probably the best option for dealing with them. Another point in the boss's favour, the soundtrack is incredible. Like most of these, I can't really think of the soundtrack off the top of my head. I don't really remember it. Maybe that's just because I've been focusing on the fight, not paying enough attention. I will go through and listen to the soundtrack. I doubt any of them will be better than this one, because this one, the soundtrack just sticks with me, and it is the one I've fought the most, maybe apart from Gladius. But yeah, the soundtrack just really sticks for this one. I just really remember this soundtrack. I think it's brilliant. I think it's up there with some of the better ones we've had in the base game of Elden Ring, like the best ones, Bloodborne, DS3. Might be better than anything in DS2. I don't know, Alon's probably my favourite from that game. Not better than Majula, I'll give it that. Probably not better than the end credits, but yeah, this soundtrack's just amazing. But yeah, it's going in C. Like, honestly, partly for that soundtrack. I think the soundtrack is brilliant. And there are some good moves in there. Unlike Adel, I don't really think Adel has any good moves. I like that. I think there are some that are kind of serviceable, but there's none that I actually think are well designed, whereas this is like, there are some badly designed moves, and there are some good ones. And I think it has a bit too much health. It's a bit too tanky, even compared to some of the other nightlords. They're all really tanky, but this one especially just feels like it takes no damage, and I think that does kind of palm the fight for me. But I do think it's actually okay. I think it's mediocre. Don't get me wrong, I don't like it, but it's not terrible. It's not bad. It's just kind of a meh. So we move on to Maris, Fathom of the Night, if I got that right, the Augur expedition. Yeah, I won't even sugarcoat it. It's the worst nightlord. It's just not good. For melee classes, it just sucks. It really sucks fighting this guy melee, and I've done it a couple times, but it's just not fun, because the whole time you're just trying to chase him around, and it's really difficult to deal with the dropping bombs if you're a melee, really difficult to deal with the tendrils that it spawns, quite difficult to destroy them, because they're going to be fighting back. You really want to be playing the Iron Eye for this boss, and there really is no other option to make it remotely fun, and it's still not good with the Iron Eye, because you're just sat there doing pitter-pat damage damage with your arrows while the boss is flying away. The sleep AoE is awful. It's so bad. I know you're meant to attack it and knock it out of it, but it's still building up sleep on you, and it's still doing a lot. It's just such a bad move. The nuke, I actually don't mind. I don't dislike the nuke because you can run away from it, you can destroy it. I actually think that's a fine move. I think there's lots of options to deal with that. The boss's design is great. Same goes for all of the, I say same goes for all of them. Adel is not good. What were they thinking with Adel's design? I don't know. On Augur, Maris, you really have to fight it with Iron Eye, and at that point you're doing no damage and you're just sitting there going, oh okay, we'll just chip away. And you need your team to be Iron Eyes as well. You want a 3-stack Iron Eyes, ideally. That's the best option you have for this boss, and it just makes it so boring because you're just having to chase it down all the time, shoot arrows at it, dodge the explosions. It's just not fun. It's so dull, and at least Adel's is over quickly and there's stuff going on, like you're actually engaging with the boss. With Maris, it just feels like you're running away and engaging with some other attacks that are coming out. I'm just not a fan. It seems like people online are universally agreeing that Maris is the worst boss, and I'm not going to stray from the curve here. Maris is the worst nightlord, but it's still not that bad. Like, in fairness, it's not trash. It's not in that bottom tier with Nito and Seif and all that. Libra's design is really cool and his mechanics are really cool. I like Libra. I think he's a really cool boss. The issue I have, the issues with the enemy aggression in this game, where it's mostly with his melee attacks, it just feels like he will switch up out of nowhere, and he can cover so much ground with his melee attacks. He will come at you from across the arena and just swing with a melee attack that does half your health, and it's really rough because there's not really any way to react to it. You just always have to be prepared to dodge at a moment's notice, because he'll be attacking your teammate in the middle of a combo, and he'll just come over, swing his staff at you. So I'm not a fan of that. I think the attacks themselves are actually well designed. I think his melee attacks are good attacks. It's just the enemy aggression just kind of makes it not work because he's just switching up at a moment's notice. And his magic, I do like it. I really like the one where he coats himself in a bubble and you have to destroy the like kind of runes around him, or just use an ult to break him out of it. I think the one where he puts a little disc that's firing out like shards is really cool. I think those are great. I think the one where he kind of slams his staff into the ground, I think that's the tell for it. Maybe I'm getting that confused with the centaur. He summons like the AoE Pillar of Frenzy. I don't like it. That one is the one attack of his that I'm just not a fan of, because it's really difficult to actually, like, the dodge timing's really weird for it. He'll throw it out at a moment's notice. Like, the issue is that they didn't give him a cooldown between attacks, so rather than what most bosses do where they'll use like a attack combo and then they'll have a guaranteed 0.5 second cooldown or something, or a 1 second cooldown, don't know exactly what they all are, but it'll typically be around that. This boss doesn't have any. He can use magic at will without really any downtime. Maybe there is a slight cooldown, but it's incredibly minimal to the point where you can't really be expected to react. So he'll do the tell for dropping the little disc, and you'll be like, okay, he's done that. You'll start up a attack combo, you come up behind him as he summons the disc to shoot at your teammates. You'll come up behind him, use like a Raider R2 or something, charged R2. Again, probably not your best option for this boss. But you just start attacking. Maybe you'll do with the Duchess, start L1ing with double daggers or whatever. And then he'll finish the tell for that, and you'll be in the middle of your attack combo, because you're like, okay, well, I've started it. He's finished the tell, done that, and he'll immediately use the Pillar of Frenzy, and it just hits you and there's nothing you can do because you're in the middle of a combo. And that happens a lot in this fight, where you have to attack him. You know, you can't just sit there doing nothing waiting till after he does the Frenzy Pillar. So you're attacking him, you start up a combo, and you just get clipped in the middle of it because that pillar can just come out of nowhere with no downtime between the attacks. So I don't like the pillar. Other than that, I think this boss is pretty good. I think it's really well designed. Apart from the aggro and apart from the pillar, I think it's fine. Having the decision to leave little crystals around the place that alleviate frenzy, I think that was genius. It makes the boss so much stronger. The fact that you can actually alleviate that frenzy if you go out of your way to do the crystals, and often you can just grab them as you're running to the boss. I love that decision. I think that was amazing. But yeah, the Pillar of Light and the kind of janky aggro just stops him from being any higher. So he's going in B. He's above Cerberus. It's not even his name, I'm just calling it Cerberus, Gladius. But he's got just enough issues that are major enough that it holds him back from being any higher. So the next one is the Centaur. I honestly can't even remember his name. I just know him as the Fulghor. Fathom of Night, is that? Something like that. I'm going to put him above Sentient Pest, for sure, but I don't think he quite gets a B. I think his moves themselves are actually pretty cool. I think his melee swipes with the little shockwave, I like the touch of the shockwave afterwards, and I think those are very reasonable to dodge. The charge where he kind of goes ballistic, starts charging across the arena, creates AoE on the ground around him, I think that's pretty cool. Kind of all these bosses have one charge attack like that. But yeah, I think that's reasonable to dodge. I do like it as a touch. I think the one where he slams his sword into the ground and creates the spears that come out, I think the timing on that is a little bit janky. Like when you're first fighting him, it's a little bit weird. You know, you get used to it, and once you get the timing down, you can dodge them pretty consistently, so it's not too bad. But when you have essentially a 45-minute run back to attempt this boss, when you're having to do a whole run of Nightreign to attempt that boss, you kind of can't ask players so much to learn unintuitive timings, and the timing on that attack is very unintuitive. So when they're having to do a full run to get back to him just to learn those timings again, kind of doesn't really work so well. Because it is, if you had a Sight of Grace outside the boss, I'd be fine with that attack, because you can just learn the unintuitive timing and then it's fine. Issue is obviously having to do a 45-minute run back to get back to the boss and learn, oh okay, I need to dodge then, rather than when you'd initially think to dodge. So he's not terrible, but the main issue of this guy is that more than any other apart from Maris, he just does not sit still. You spend most of the fight just chasing him down, and it's not like he takes massive amounts of damage. He's not the tankiest of them, but he's still got a massive health bar, so you end up just running around the arena trying to chase him down. He just runs away. He doesn't, like, it's not that he's running at one of your teammates. He's not running towards you being super aggressive. He's running away so he can then come back in, and it just makes him so annoying to actually deal damage to. You just end up having to chase him down. So his moveset is actually good. Like, he has a good moveset, and I do like it. It's just so annoying to fight him because he's just running around the map and just deliberately making it difficult for you to deal damage, and it drags the fight out so much. Whereas if they just made him a little bit more aggressive, made him sit still a bit, he would have been a much better boss because his moveset's actually fine. But then we move on to Caligo, the Fisher in the Night. We're going to go A with Caligo. I really like Caligo. I think it's a good boss. I don't think it's FromSoft's best dragon. I don't think it's on par with FromSoft's best fights. He's not Calamite. He's certainly far off Twin Princes, Artorias, Gale, all those up the top. But he is a good fight. He's sitting around like the Godric's and the Blue Smelter Demons with the good bosses, the Alons. He's just a good boss. His attacks all feel intuitive to dodge. That's what I love about this boss. His attacks all just make sense. Like, you can just instantly look at the tell and go, okay, that's how I dodge it. Visually, they could have made his big arena-wide AoE where he kind of goes invisible, puts ice crystals down. I think visually they could have made that a bit more clear because it's kind of quite subtle with the amount of mist that's surrounding you. Sometimes quite hard to tell, and you do need to respond differently to them. So I think they could have made that tell a little bit clearer. But the actual attacks I really like. I don't mind having to run away, dodge the attack. It does stall out the fight a bit, but it feels like this grand kind of spectacle, big moment in the fight. So I actually don't mind it when they're kind of used like that. It's not a consistent thing either. And then the one where he goes to one side of the arena and shoots frost along the place and you have to hide behind the rock. I think that's really cool. You can run away from it if you get far enough, but hiding behind the rock's your better option. I really like that. I'm a massive fan of it. I just wish the tells for the differences between the two could have been a bit clearer. But his tail swipes, I love that they gave the mix up on that. One, he shoots like an arc of ice kind of vertically, and then the other he'll do like a horizontal wave of ice crystals. I think that's really cool. I love that gave him some variation there. His big breath down to the ground attack is great. I think forces players to pay attention, makes them back off a little bit, but it doesn't push them away for ages. You can get some attacks in as he's charging it, run away because it doesn't take you long to get out of the range, and then run back in as it's ending, and you get a really good window to attack him in that. So I really like that. And then it's like kind of claw swipe. I think all his moves are really cool, and visually he's probably my favorite, maybe the next boss. boss. But yeah, his visuals are incredible. The one issue I have with him is the scattering of ice, because it's building up frostbite, and sometimes he'll scatter it all around him, make it difficult to attack him, which is an issue. And it does get a little bit annoying when he's just standing in a pile of ice basically, and you're like, okay, well, I don't really want to risk walking through the frostbite to attack the boss, especially when he does it to your teammates as well, when he scatters frostbite and your teammates die to the frostbite and they're stuck in the kind of swamp of ice crystals, and you're like, okay, well, I need to wait it out until I can actually revive you unless you've got an iron eye. All the more credit to having an iron eye for every single one of these bosses, just saying. Yeah, I just think Caligo is great. Apart from that one issue with the ice, I don't even think the tells are really an issue. Like, I know the tells and I can react to them, but I think they could be a little bit clearer. But yeah, I just think Caligo is an awesome boss. I think his moves are really well made. I think the spectacle is even better than any of these others, and they are spectacle focused bosses more than anything else. And I think his gameplay is cleaner than all the others. I think it's a more fun fight. I think Libra could maybe get to this tier, but I just think the annoyances I have with Libra are like, okay, what are we doing here? Why is his cooldown between attacks not higher? And that does get really annoying. Whereas Caligo's, it's like, okay, I have to wait for a little bit. That's pretty annoying as well. But then I also think the good parts of Caligo's fights are better. I think his moveset is better than Libra's for the most part. I just think Caligo's really well made. And then we have Heolstor. Visually, I think he's the best. I don't know whether he can really get an S, because with Caligo, I'm kind of looking at good, and then when we get to the S, I'm kind of looking at great, amazing, phenomenal bosses, those 3 top tiers. We're looking at like Radans, Twin Princes, Dancers, all the ones like that, and I'm not sure if he's quite there. I haven't beaten him yet. I've only fought him a handful of times, so I don't have a full grasp on how much I'm going to like him yet. I do definitely prefer him to Caligo, but he does have some issues. The hitbox on his kind of thrust attack, where it's kind of got the big wave of darkness that surrounds his blade as he thrusts, it's a massive hitbox, so you do actually need to iframe the dodge perfectly. You can't position around that, and I really like when good positioning can evade attacks for you in these games. I really like when they put an emphasis on that. That kind of takes it away from it, because he's going to hit you unless you iframe it perfectly, which isn't terrible. Like, it's not bad, but it is just something I would have liked you to be able to position around it. And he does have some moments where it will look like his combo string has ended, and then he'll follow it up, which again, you can adapt to, and you fight this guy a couple times, you go, okay, he's not finished with his combo. But same thing I spoke about with the Centaur, when you're doing 45-minute runs to this boss, you kind of want to make it a bit more intuitive for players. But I do think his moveset is just really cool. He's a knight style enemy, which I'm always more of a fan of. He just plays really nicely. I really like the kind of more distinct phase 1, phase 2 of this fight. Visually is incredible. He just feels epic, and his moveset is really good. It's far from the greatness, like the perfection of Artorias and Gale, but it is really good, and it's a really fun moveset to interact with. He feels really difficult because he's jumping between people so much, but I think that aggro does come into play here. He will just switch up on you so quickly, and you can just get caught, and it does become very annoying very quickly. But I do ultimately think he's a very good boss. I'm not sure if the S placement is kind of entirely valid yet, but I do think he is a notable cut above Caligo, so I think I'll put him there now for fair. I think most people are going to agree that he's the best nightlord. I think that is the consensus right now. I'm going to agree with it, and that's my list. I think Maris is clearly the worst, Heolstor is clearly the best, and I think we've got some good bosses here. I think overall there's actually a decent lineup. I am underwhelmed, I'll be honest, but it is a wholly new style for FromSoft. It's not a Souls game, it's an entirely new style of game. They're having to design these almost raid boss-esque free bosses for players, and you see that they can't just use the same design philosophies when you fight something like the Smelter Demon, which I'm a massive fan of. I think it's awesome that they expanded upon his moveset, and I think his moveset is actually better than the Dark Souls 2 ones. The issue is, the fight is so much worse than the Dark Souls 2 ones, because he's just so easy, because he can't fight 3 players, and he isn't made for it. And they kind of tried to touch up on it with some of his attacks and enhancements, but yeah, it just doesn't work. So they have to take a new design approach for these nightlords, and I think for the most part it's a good sign. For a first attempt at a boss style like this, they're not bad. There's a couple of stinkers in here, and a couple of ones where they're like mediocre to decent, but then there's a couple of good ones as well with minor flaws, and there's some definite potential, and I think we could see some really great bosses in DLC from always outdo themselves with bosses in the DLC. The only exception is Shadow of the Erdtree, but even then, Miasma is the best boss in that game, Rellana is second. Yeah, I think there's some real potential for these bosses, but that's my current ranking of the quality of the Nightreign bosses. It's obviously subject to change, we're in the first week of release, but I think it's pretty solid so far. I think that's a good ranking of the bosses. But I'm going to be doing some more rankings. I'll do a boss difficulty ranking, character like Nightfarer's rankings, I'll do skins ranking just because I feel like it. I'll do some more rankings, so stick around. Just a little bit of a lower effort video today because I've got some other projects in the work. I didn't really want to devote all my time to doing a super highly edited video, so we're just sticking with the tier list for now. But I hope you enjoyed regardless, hope you'll stick around for the next one, and I'll see you in that next video hopefully.